All right, guys, it's time for the Next Level Guy Show, a men's interview, interest, and improvement-focused podcast featuring interviews with the greats from all industries to help you better your life. Each week, a new episode features an interview with one of the greats, covering all aspects of their story, from life hacks to tips and protocols that have allowed them to live life on the next level. We then highlight concrete action steps that you can use to improve your life. And now, your host, Ian Dawson Mackay.
Welcome to an episode of the Next Level Guy Show. I'm your host, Ian Dawson Mackay. The Next Level Guy Show is designed to help you become the man that you were meant to be by analysing men who have ditched the script in their lives and built extraordinary lives. We offer concrete action steps that you can take that will help you change and level up your own life starting today. You can't have negative self-talk while someone's trying to strangle you. That amazing quote from today's guest, Daniel Schuardt. But it makes you think, what if the secret to silencing your inner critic was literally letting someone try to strangle you? Daniel, the man-child, he joins me to talk ego death, imposter syndrome, and how getting choked can actually change your life. Meet Daniel. He's an elite jiu-jitsu black belt, an ADCC veteran, and creator of the Man-Child, whose mix of high-level technique, humour, and raw honesty is redefining what it means to fight, teach, and think on the mats. But before he was the smiling, meme-slinging man-child of jiu-jitsu, Daniel was a young guy battling self-doubt, rough times at home, and a mind that wouldn't switch off. He found himself trapped in his own thoughts until he stepped onto the mats. Through jiu-jitsu, Daniel discovered something powerful. You can't spiral into negative self-talk when someone's trying to choke you out. The mats, they became his therapy, his mirror, and his teacher. They broke his ego, helped him rebuild his confidence, and revealed his true self. Today, Daniel's not just competing at the highest level. He's inspiring thousands to laugh, to learn, and to level up by showing that the fight that matters most is the one inside your own head, and it's one that you can win too, even if you do have to let somebody try to strangle you. And now, let's get to the interview. But for those who don't know you, you're known as the man-child. Where does this fun-loving persona, where does the Daniel we see today come from?
I mean, it's always just been me, honestly. Like, everything I put out on social media is kind of just an amplified version of me. But I just love, having a laugh and talking shit, and I love jiu-jitsu. And so you put all those things together and I'm what you get.
Well, can you remember that moment that you found jiu-jitsu? What was that kind of thing? Were you always sort of destined? Because you started in MMA. So what was the sort of lead?
So essentially, I watched a lot of UFC early on in my youth, and then there was a jiu-jitsu school down the road from me, and it was like the size of my living room. I swear, we put like 20 dudes in this room, and we all just went hell for leather basically. And my first session, I was terrible, as everybody is, but no, I just like fell in love. And previous to this, I'd like got on YouTube, and I was a YouTube nerd, and I was trying to think about like, I'm going to learn how to do a triangle and all this stuff. And then you go and train with people who actually know what jiu-jitsu is, and you just get murked. But yeah, that was pretty much like the standard experience for most jiu-jitsu guys, I would say. Like, you come out and you try, and you realize you're terrible at it, and then you go from there. And became really obsessed with the problem-solving aspect. And I guess like for me as well, I had a bit of a rough time when I was younger. So having something that completely occupied my mind, where I didn't have to think about like what was going on at home or any of this other shit, it was like a really cool escape for me, from myself, honestly, like, and a lot of like negative self-talk because you can't have negative self-talk while someone's trying to strangle the life out of you. You got to worry about other things. So that really attracted me to it as well, for sure.
When it's 100-pound little girl, purple belt on your back, choking you out, and you think, what have my life choices led me to this point? Like, as you're getting whipped, battered left, right, and centre. Can you go into a little bit about that? Because I've struggled with depression, I've struggled with OCD and stuff, and I know what it's like when your brain is your own worst enemy. How did you find that kind of calming, doing jiu-jitsu, grappling, literally putting yourself through stuff no one else really wants to do?
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, I found myself, like when I was younger, especially, really struggling with like my own self-worth. And like I would get down on myself, and a lot of time, the sound of my own inner monologue, I guess, would drown out a lot of other problems, a lot of the things that were in front of me. And so I try to focus on something, and it end up being like, fucking, what am I doing? Why am I wasting my time with this? And just in general life overall, And for me, when I came to jiu-jitsu, it really felt like there was just no room for this. Like there's such a complexity to the problem, and it's just all encompassing. So when you're out there on the mats and, you've had whatever's happened in your day, like there's just not room for it in your processing. If you're really trying to take in the problems as they're enveloping in front of you, like there's just not room for you to be worried about what people think of you or whatever. Like you just have to be focused on the problem. And I feel like for me, my ability to visualize jiu-jitsu, and I kind of like, I feel like, I explain this to people, but I feel like when I put it in my mind, I can literally feel how the other person feels when I'm visualizing the position. And I feel like it's because I've been so obsessed with growing this understanding of the puzzle that's been like so consuming for me. Like, and it's helped to be a really valuable outlet where at a time in my life, I was really struggling to find that mental clarity. And I feel like jiu-jitsu really gave that to me. And it was really transformative for my life, honestly.
I think that's maybe why I kind of connect with your stuff so much, because I kind of feel that sometimes as well, that you're finding yourself as much as you're giving us your amazing personality, your great content. You kind of show us how you can completely transform your life. If you had a blue belt just now or a white belt coming to you and saying, I'm really constantly thinking about myself, I'm constantly, feeling bitching about myself about a bad result, or I am comparing myself to Billy, John, Gene, whoever, what would you do to them to get them to do the man-child persona rather than the comparison?
I mean, I guess the main thing I would say is like focus on your progress in your discipline, right? And this transcends like across all things. But if you really reflect on the growth that you make individually, that's something that nobody else can take away from you. And it's also something that you can always find. Like the tricky challenge with this, especially for like whites and blue belts, is that assuming that you're training approximately the same amount as your training partners, everybody else is also getting better at a similar rate. And so you can kind of get lost in this like big sea of information where you're like, oh, am I really getting better? Maybe I'm still worthless at this. Maybe you can have the same issue. But if you, like, for example, if you record your own rolls or if you roll with people who are like newer than you, especially, you really get to feel the fruits of your labor. And if you really reflect on like what you can do today versus what you could do a month, a year ago, like that kind of, I don't know, I guess like sense of accomplishment can put a lot of weight on the work that's been put in. And I think this can help.
It's definitely, the rise of like superstar coaches on YouTube has kind of really opened up jiu-jitsu, because, when you first start, you go in and somebody says, you've got to bow to the mat, you've got to bow to the photos on the wall, and you're kind of like, what? And, you've got to call me professor. And I was working in a university at the time, and you call people who had PhDs professors, and I was kind of like, okay. And it was that moment of lie on top of somebody and you're invading their personal space. How did you find that weird, that initial kind of suddenly that you're invited to be physical with somebody, whereas as guys were brought up to be of don't touch anybody, don't push, don't be hard, don't use your strength on somebody?
Yeah, for me, I think like less of an issue. Like when I was coming up, like I was always fairly interested in fighting and combat. Like my dad always tried to push me to do these types of things, and like obviously I was like just misguided. I just had this confidence that I could fight without any training. I obviously couldn't, but I was always interested in fighting and the rough and tumble side of it. So, like to, I guess I guess for me, like getting in there and having a wrestle wasn't that much of a daunting prospect. I was also like, I'm on the bigger end of things as well. I would imagine it'd be a different experience if you're like a small person, you know what I mean? Like just in general, whether it's like a small man or a young lady, for example. Like if you're the prospect of like, go and wrestle this 110 kilo guy, that would be pretty daunting if you're on the other end of the spectrum. For me, like that monstrous creature who's also really good doesn't really exist. It's more the ego death of being annihilated by a 60 kilogram small little dude or whatever. That's the pain that I had to endure. You know, they have the fear of the gorilla. We have the fear of the dorky nerd who looks like he's your banker and who can just dissect you in half and do whatever he wants to you, basically. So that was my boogeyman when I was coming up.
It's like those memes into like they show you this really small, skinny guy and go, if you, just so you know, that guy would kill you in jiu-jitsu, not the guy that's exactly. 500 pounds, massively built, and you're like, and what is it with the ego, do you think? Is that what puts you, when you deal with so many students, that you think that's holding you back? Is that ego, that thing of, I'm meant to be tougher, I'm meant to be bigger, how the hell is this little girl throwing me around the mat sort of thing?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think like some people, I feel like once they realize that they actually can't win the game that they're bad at, then things start to go way better. Like, and whether you want to call that ego or just like competitiveness or whatever the case is, like I'll oftentimes have students who I'll be coaching and I'll literally just go to them like, hey bro, like you don't know anything. Why are you trying to win? It doesn't actually make any sense. Like if you didn't know how the pieces moved in chess, would you sit there and try to win every round, or just maybe pay attention, watch a game even, and like try to understand what is happening, why one person wins or the other, you know? And so whether you want to call it like ego or just competitiveness or just like maybe like, and it's easy to be absent-minded in training and just kind of go hell for leather and just see how it goes. But I think once you kind of step back and regroup and think like, okay, what do I actually need to do to get better at this? That's where you're going to start to really see the fruits of the labor, I think, you know?
Well, when I first started, I was all right, but I mean, I was trying to be like the spinny, fast guys, and then I'm like a very heavy 6'3" guy, and I was kind of like, there must be more to this. And then I found pressure passing, and I find myself now apologizing as I'm kind of like over underpassing people, and I can, you know, it's like the Acme villains when they just get squashed down. I'm kind of like, sorry, as I move them around, and once you find that part of jiu-jitsu that you can make it, and I think that's why people love your stuff so much, is you impact your personality, but you also show us like the movement, the features, the nuances of it. Do you think that's why you've been so successful, is that you make it, you know, you break down the stigma, but you actually show us how to have fun during jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, I mean, like my mission with all this, I guess, is to try to contribute to the positive side of social media jiu-jitsu. Because like there's a bunch of like, I mean, frankly, it's a bunch of trash. Some of the stuff that I see on Instagram, especially, is like terrible. And so I'm just trying to put forward like positive little nuggets into the world that you can scroll through and be like, well, that's kind of cool. And you try it that day and it'll actually work, instead of being something that you go to your coach like, is this going to work? And it's just some ridiculous, crazy move that's never going to fly. Like, I feel like people need to understand that there are those tidbits of crazy, cool moves, but they're nuanced, and you need to understand a lot of prerequisite things for you to be able to do them. And so I try to do my best to give like bite-sized chunks of information that are digestible and also actually usable for the average person. And so this is kind of like the mission behind it. And then like in terms of giving my own personality, like I just think jiu-jitsu is fun, you know, and like sometimes I deliberately like rage bait some people for sure. I'll be like, this position's fake, and then show a guard pass or whatever. And they'll be like, you can't say that or whatever. And I'll just go, I can actually, because I'm actually a top ranked guy. And they'll be like, well, the other guy would say that. And you're like, okay, cool, bro. But then it all just adds to the comment section. And anybody who comments, honestly, I try to make the time to respond. And people who are, actually asking questions like, how can you say it's fake? How can you get it to not work? I'll actually go through and explain it to them, or I'll make a follow-up video. And then other people who just talk shit, I'll talk shit back. And it's also very funny for me. So, you know what I mean? Because that's life. It's not that deep. It's just funny.
Well, that's what I love about your stuff. Is like I can't not watch a video and sit there and go, "Oh shit!" I've laughed, but I've also learned about 5 things from that. And I pick up so much from it, and it's like having a mate teach you jiu-jitsu, and I think that's the best thing about it. But we also learn the key skills, the key movements, and stuff. What do you think about this rise of like YouTube coaches, the likes of Ashton Kutcher, Henry Cavill, Tom Hardy, all these kind of celebrities doing jiu-jitsu as well? Do you think it's having a good effect, or is it kind of anybody with a camera can put stuff out kind of thing nowadays? Where do you think the balance of the sport is?
Yeah, it's tricky. Hey, like at the end of the day, like if, Tom Hardy, who has, I don't even know, a billion followers. Let's just say a billion. It's not probably right, but like if he says jiu-jitsu is really cool, check out this move, then more people are going to see it. It's going to be good for the sport. So, you're never going to catch me throwing shade on those people who are spreading jiu-jitsu to a wide audience. But at the same time, sometimes their move is also trash. You know what I mean? To understand as students of the game how to discern, good information from bad. I think I have like this kind of general rule of recency. Like if I haven't seen it happen recently, like say in the last like 5-10 years at a high level, probably the move's mostly trash. You know what I mean? And there are exceptions, of course, of like things that are like pretty cheeky that might have worked in the gym a bunch of times. And this is like kind of the only way you can know this is if you train in a high level room and you see what actually can work. So like I'm blessed to train with like Lachlan Giles and the guys in Melbourne, and then go to Texas and train with like Gordon and under John's tutelage with like Luke and Nicholas and all these amazing people.
Just the small people. No one's ever heard of them like before,
Yeah, no, just a couple of small fry guys. No, but I'm incredibly blessed. But unless you're in a room like this, you can't really base training room experience on like what's going to scale up against high level opposition. But at the same time, the other side of the coin is like not everybody actually cares. Like there are plenty of people in jiu-jitsu who are kind of happy to just be kind of shit, right? Compared to the grand scheme of things, which is fine because jiu-jitsu is, as much as it's a fighting style and it's a martial art, it's also a cool way for people to, stay in shape, enjoy an art form, solve a puzzle, hang out with their friends and get a good exercise. So like, as much as I think for me personally, I want to focus on shit that's going to work well. And I think it's generally good advice for the average person. Like if you see some crazy, ridiculous move, like some of the moves I show on my social media and on YouTube and things, like some of them are stooge moves. Like here's a dumb shit move you can do to a blue belt. You know what I mean? Which is really funny, but it's not going to fly on Gordon, right? But that doesn't mean you can't enjoy the move and can't put it into practice against your friends because ultimately that's what some people want out of their jiu-jitsu training.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a big benefit, I think, of jiu-jitsu is it's the brotherhood. It's that kind of, you can't not choke somebody out or have them on your back, sweating in your face, like, down, mother's milk kind of submissions on you, and then go, quite like that guy. It's like, you shake hands and you're quite pal each other after it. It builds that friendship. And you've literally trained with the who's who of jiu-jitsu nowadays. I know you're probably sick of talking about it, but what's it taught you about your own potential, being in a room with guys who are like the highest of the high? What has it done for you or opened your eyes to in terms of ability, potential, skill development sort of thing?
Sure. So like, I guess like what's very profound, I think, is like when I first started training with like, especially with the New Wave team, man, I was like, and oftentimes when I go back there, I'm like, well, should I change career? You know what I mean? Because
have I done this before?
Brutal. Yeah. Sometimes it's so brutal. But at the same time, by pursuing this, crazy dream, basically, I've been able to achieve like some pretty crazy success. And I've also trained with quite a lot of people who aren't necessarily in the New Wave team. And it's quite tricky because Lachlan, obviously very highly regarded, and I train with Levi Jones-Leary sometimes when he's in town, and we get a few stop-ins through Absolute especially. So I train with a pretty good breadth of people in Australia, but it's always difficult to know how they scale up against the rest of the world. And then by training at Kingsway, well, when I go back to Kingsway, it was formerly Roka. Training at Roka, you get a lot of drop-ins as well, but from other like high-level athletes typically. And so training with a few people and competing with a few people now, I'm kind of like, wow, like I may be like a small fish in the Kingsway room, but like there are plenty of people who I can do pretty well with, who are big names in the international scene. And so like it's like this weird distorted perspective, like where it's like back home in Australia, I have no idea how good or bad we are on the grand scheme of things. It's very hard to reference. All I know is like Levi is really good. Lachlan's obviously been very successful. And then in between that, there's this weird blur if you don't really know how good somebody fits in the big picture. And then you go to Kingsway and you train with like Luke Griffith or Nicholas or Big Dan. You just get murked the entire time. You're like, well, I guess I'm terrible. But you train with other good international competitors. You're like, oh, okay, we're in this. So it really did highlight to me how like high the ceiling can be. And also, I guess, like by the experience of doing this and kind of getting comfortable with this level and training amongst these amazing people really showed me that like, I'm right there, which was kind of inspiring because I didn't really hold like the highest belief in myself, like all through my life. And then I guess coming into this like, new kind of phase of my career, it's always easier to put these, big names on a pedestal, but you kind of roll with them. You're like, oh, well, actually they're all just regular people. You know what I mean? Like they're all obtainable to chase down. I still definitely feel like the New Wave guys have a massive lead on me. And like, given that I'm nearly 30, I may never close that gap, and I'm willing to admit this. But there's certainly people in the international scene who I'd love to get some big matches with and really highlight that, because I had a pretty good performance on AIGA recently, and it kind of like really put me in the limelight, so to speak, with having a good success against a many-time world champion in Philippe Andrew. And so since then I'm like, wow, maybe I'm like right in the mix and I need to be having way more matches. So that's kind of in the pipeline. So it's exciting times.
I love how like you don't seem to appreciate just how like likable and good you are. You kind of go, yeah, I'm getting better, but you come across as this kind of deep, honest, open person who just is your friend in jiu-jitsu, and I think that's why we kind of gravitate towards your teachings, and you've got this knack of just making it enjoyable and fun, but also showing us high level shit that kind of goes, whoa, I never even thought I could do that. Oh, I didn't know I could do that. And we can add these little things into our games. Have you seen something like that Gordon Giles, Daniel has taught that a blue belt or a white belt could adopt, that you would just see their learning curve just go super high by adopting? Are there little key concepts you think, fuck, that's got to be implemented by my students?
Yeah, I mean, like, definitely lots of little tidbits. Like, it's just honestly like the thing that separates like Gordon, especially from the rest of the world, I think, is he has this like unbelievably precise understanding of the micro battles of fundamental positions. Like, there's not a position that you can get in with Gordon where he's like, what should I do here? He just already has the shit figured out. And, he can play sexy jiu-jitsu and do all this crazy shit. But, like, the baseline understanding is, if you really break down his understanding of, like, pin control, pin escapes, sweeping, like, takedowns, like, he's just a monster. He's just all over it. It's so amazing. But to me, like, that depth of understanding about the fundamentals, when you translate that across to, like, white and blue belts, the progress I've seen of some of my guys has just been, like, mental. In saying that as well, like, a lot of guard retention concepts that I've picked up from Lachlan and his like K-guard 50-50, Birimbolo kind of game. Like I picked up a lot of things from this as well. But I'll say like that's like that style of play is like less accessible to the average person, I would say, but still like an invaluable part of my game for sure.
Because I really love watching your style of, because you're like me, you're tall, but you're fast, which I'm definitely not. Like I'm like the Michelin man. Things you're bouncing that shouldn't be bouncing when I'm trying to jog around the gym kind of thing, But you've got the Lachlan Giles, you've got the leg lock style. You've got the Danaher, which is more the system orientated. You've got Ryan, who's the kind of the god of the fundamentals kind of thing. I've interviewed Hodger Gracie, who was just on another level, which kind of blew me away watching his stuff. How do you bring that bit here, and then add the man-child into it? Like, have it been difficult to pull the different philosophies, the different styles of coaching, and apply it in a way that you, as a person, like to enjoy?
It's a tricky question. I feel like, especially on my social media, I'm mindful that like a lot of the stuff that I'm shown by Lachlan or Gordon or John is like how they make their living. So I'm kind of a little bit like, I don't want to just like cut and paste their style of jiu-jitsu and their teachings into jiu-jitsu. But also like the thing about getting coaching from, like, I don't want to call myself the average person, but like for the average person, like if you're learning from just a regular black belt, for example, and your goal is just to enjoy jiu-jitsu, it's more about how you respond to the delivery of that person's coaching, I would say, right? Like if you're dealing with somebody who's very like, let's say their boring is still like boring, their delivery is boring, I should say, but they're teaching really good shit. That might really work for some people, but other people, they might just be like, I can't do this, bro, actually, whereas some people, you need to just be engaged. So like one of the, it's an interesting thing. I think it was like this black belt. I believe it was Tiago Stefanuti, who was one of the coaches at Absolute many years ago. He's a black belt now, and I think he's off in Brazil. He's a good dude. But I think he was talking about this one time, and he said like, okay, yes, I'm a black belt, but I may not be the black belt for you or the coach for you, so to speak. Like in that, like everybody's got jiu-jitsu that they can share with another person, and some people will naturally gravitate towards one person and then naturally gravitate towards another. So ultimately, I think if you just deliver yourself within your teaching, you will attract people who are ready to have that man-child experience, for example, right? And maybe you'll attract people who are ready for your experience. And then, like, for example, like the way Lachlan and I coach is very, very different. In spite of having quite a lot of similarities in our game, like our delivery is quite different. And he attracts a certain type of student, and I attract a certain type of student as well. Mine are just cooler. Nah, I'm joking. But at the end of the day, like you kind of bring about the energy that you put out into the world, and I try to just give my honest self to people, and then those people come around me, and then I have an awesome time because I love everybody at my gym because they all gel in. It's really cool,
I think that's definitely something I like about because I was going through different coaches and YouTube and stuff, and I was like, I don't get this bit, and then suddenly I found your stuff, and I was like, he's the sort of guy I go for a pint with and could learn jiu-jitsu with. It's the you behind the camera is the same as you on the camera. There's no fakeness, there's no bullshit, but it's like you're saying, you impart your own personality. I mean, I've heard you talk about when you used to busk when you were younger. That you recently got married. Congratulations! And
thank you.
You was an Elvis impersonator who was the.
It was actually Elvis.
And you were, but I love how that's the kind of thing that you're proud of. Like it's like no, we planned that. We went out there, and how do we take the personality of ourself and impart it in jiu-jitsu? I know that's probably a bit of a what the fuck question, but how do we take that showmanship, that kind of style, performance, whatever it is that makes us unique, and put it out in jiu-jitsu that makes us think, express ourselves on the mat. I don't know if that's a bit wonky, but
no, I mean it's fair. I mean, like it comes back to like, what are you doing jiu-jitsu for? You know, like for example, if you watch Gordon, sometimes you're like, okay, bro, stop laying on the guy, right? With the camping and all these things. Which, I mean, if your goal is to be unequivocally dominant and just undeniably the best, then Gordon's style is like dialed in for this game. And that's Gordon to a T. He's like, I will beat you for every second of every round in a match. And even if you feel like you're having a win, it's what I want you to do. Oh, yeah, push me away, retain your guard. Okay, cool, that's what I want. Because you're burning energy. So, like, this is Gordon's expression of style, right? Because he's like, I will be the best and nobody will beat me, right? And then you have, like, Levi, whose whole thing is, like, do difficult things easily. It's kind of Levi's kind of shtick, which I love. And so he plays this, like, beautiful, dynamic, open guard and kind of is always on the hunt to just pull off this wizard shit, you know? Like, when he's competing, he becomes the Xanadu god. That's his whole fucking gimmick, right? And, you know, I feel like when you master the jiu-jitsu, like, just by being yourself and, like, the way jiu-jitsu takes you and the way that it forms within you based on your interest and your personality will show who you are. Like, you get headhunters, you get leg lockers, you get guys who just only want to be on top, like all these different things. They're just simply an expression of how you feel about jiu-jitsu and how you feel about combat in general. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like you don't have to force it. I feel like jiu-jitsu will show you the way based on what it is that you are naturally attracted to.
Oh, that's a cracking answer. I mean, it's because I think that's the thing is we all come in and we try to emulate or follow the philosophy or the style, you know, of our coaches, of our team, etc. Forgetting that there's such a wide range of amazing people who maybe bat heads on social media, who fight each other and think, you know, and we kind of, would you say that's a bad thing about jiu-jitsu at the minute, that we have all these teams who are kind of hyper competitive, hyper, you know, tribal almost?
So, I mean, like, I think if you're in the teams and you get sucked into the shit talk, I think it's not so good. But I also think for the average person, like, what's a good example? Like, in the World Cup, right? In soccer, for example, or football, if you guys call it over there. So,
I like
in
that.
the World Cup,
good correction.
There you go. Yeah, I got you. In the World Cup, when your team is in the world final, you are so invested. You will cancel work. You know, take the week off to celebrate if your team wins. You know what I mean? Like, that's the level of like fandom that gets around in the World Cup, right? So the point of this is, like, as much as it's kind of bad, quote unquote, it also attracts this level of, like, people who are so invested. And so when you have people who are invested and you're like, oh, I'm team fucking New Wave or, you know, Atos or, you know, B team, whatever. When you're that invested that you'll get up at whatever hour of the morning to watch a show to see if your team wins, if you're sharing stuff on social media and then your friend's like, what is this shit you're talking about on social media? Bro, jiu-jitsu, man, it's crazy. That's literally how it's going to grow as well. So as much as it's like maybe not so good for the athletes and obviously as well, like the optics of like people shit fighting on the internet are not like amazing. And it's maybe bad for like the next generation setting this example. You can make these arguments, but if it makes this same level of investment that makes people wake up at the crack of dawn to watch a show, or, you know, I'm sure from the UK or Europe, wherever you guys are, like, I'm sure you guys know all too well about how, like, when grappling events are on at like butthole o'clock in the morning for you guys, plenty of diehard fans will still wake up early and watch it because they're invested, you know, and that's the investment that you can gain from this kind of like shit talking and infighting between teams.
It's time for a quick break. There are millions of potential products to buy, so how do you know which ones are worth your hard-earned money? Simple. You go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and explore those that will transform and improve your life. You'll find deals, listener exclusives, and special offers with some great companies. Recommendations are 100% honest and only on items Ian has tried or believes in. The companies showcased will make you a better man in all areas of your life. Simply go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and level up.
Because I've got a mate just now who's taking a day off work to go and play Borderlands, from midnight onwards, and he's taking the whole weekend to sit and just play this game, thinking about it for days and days before, and I was kind of like, okay. And then I was thinking, but I do the same for podcasting. I get up at silly o'clock to do interviews and stuff, and I suppose it's what drives you, but the fact of how much we've seen people now, this explosion of interest in it, it's been amazing. So for a student who comes to you and says, I really like this guy, but I know I'm not meant to, or I really want to watch this instructional, how can we take a bit of potion A, a bit of potion B, potion C, this is going to sound bad, throw the child into it and mix it up and create this how can we watch instructionals and YouTubes and blend the styles, do you think? Is it just try it and see how it goes, fuck up, fail, try again and again till you find something that works?
Yeah, I feel like jiu-jitsu is funny like this, right? Like, as much as it's straightforward to say, like, Gordon's the best, right? Sometimes the way in which somebody spells out a problem to you and the words they use may just resonate better from another source, Like, they might even teach the move practically the same way. Maybe just be like 10% different, But the way in which the problem is posed to you, or the way in which you are led to think about the problem from one instructor versus another, might be the difference in how you go and how you go about solving the problem for yourself. Because everybody is different, right? So when you're learning jiu-jitsu, sometimes you might find that, like, when you listen to Craig about, like, Craig or Gordon or John or whatever about, like, this problem or the other, maybe like, oh, wow, that person's body type really fits mine, that'll work good. Or maybe like Mikey has a better answer, or Lachlan or Levi. It's more about, like, how the problems are posed to you and how they present information that make it very absorbable or useful or what have you.
Because you've got a lot of great videos about you, taking the mix in, this white belt's going to get 500 lashes for how they've messed up there, or I'm going to put this guy to sleep because they've done this, or how to stop them spazzing here. And, you've got all these, like, really funny videos, but what is it, do you think, that you see a lot of white belts, blue belts doing lately that you kind of go, for the love of, I've got to get that out? What, is there things that you see that you just think, if a newbie could fix this, this, and this, it would save me having to bring out the lash?
Yeah, probably. Honestly, one of the biggest things. Honestly, one of the most successful videos I had when I was, like, quite early on in my Instagram boom was I did a video on, like, guard retention, basically, and it was like something like 10x your guard retention with a simple trick, and it was like, I basically said something like, the elites don't want you to know the secret trick, but it's actually just to not hip escape with your outside leg.
Yeah.
So anytime somebody passes your guard, if you hip escape, so say they're passing to my right, if they hip escape with my left foot on the floor, that's a terrible idea. Stop that. Don't ever do that. In general, okay? I'm not sure if you do. If you do, bro, change that immediately, okay? Because it's you just give up your hip. And a good guard passer is going to win that hip, and then you're going to be stuck in outside camping for all of eternity, and you're going to get your guard passed, and you're going to be very tired. So instead, keep your knees to your chest and high pummel instead of hip escaping. And if you are going to hip escape, step on your bottom leg. So if they're passing to my right, step on my right foot to move my hips back so I have room to keep my top knee shield in so I don't get to my hip for free. This is like a very simple fix you can do for most like white and blue belts that make them go, oh, framing, of course, like you always say, right? Like when you put it in this context and you can kind of paint this picture, it makes it very, very clear. Like that's one of the ones that like is huge. This is one of the main things. Probably the other big one is when you're in back control, not focusing on the seatbelt and just squeezing really hard, not just focusing on pulling your heels to butt, but actually focusing on how your seatbelt and your underhook in particular can be used to control the rotation of the shoulders. And the same thing with the hips. Like, you see so many people who are starting out in back control, you get a seatbelt, 2 hooks in, ready, go, and they just squeeze as hard as they can. But this isn't actually conducive to keeping your partner aligned with you. So when you start to learn to play with an outside hook or a body triangle or a high ball ride to maintain alignment at the lower and upper body, that's when people can start to really, actually control people from the back. And once you can control somebody from the back, it truly is one of the best positions in the sport by far. So these are just like my general musings that are like in my head that I go, oh, these are the terrible things that I see people do.
I love hearing things like this because it's sort of like pulling these little gems out, and I kind of go, don't go, remember the audience, remember there's other people listening, don't just go in and go, how do I fix this, how do I fix that? And because we go from white belt, whereas we do a lot of stupid shit, we get caught, we get beaten, and then you kind of find your way. That excitement from white belt to blue belt is amazing. Once you're a blue belt, though, from blue to purple, from purple onwards, it's quite a gap, and it's quite a long fight. And a lot of people find the monotony again. A blue belt. How do we keep a blue belt, keep it fun, keep it exciting when it's kind of you're past the beginner gains, but you're into that grind stage? How do we impart the man-child philosophy when we're thinking, I'm not getting the feedback to say you're doing awesome or changing like you would at white belt?
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, I feel like at blue belt, the moment you realize, if you can just remind yourself that you actually suck, then you'll make plenty of progress. Like, I have had a few blue belts in my day who I've trained and coached, and they kind of got to blue belt, and they're like, yeah, I'm fucking good at this shit. And I go, no, you're not. Like it's good, they feel good, but the ones that have this confidence and they just want to try and win from this level, they're not that good. You just relax. The ones that kind of go, fuck, I really need to work on this. There's plenty of details to make your game way cleaner, way tidier. You just have to be humble enough to go, I really need to address this. Like, for me, for example, I got all the way to black belt, and I think I silver medaled at my first trials, and I'd maybe watched like one Danaher instructional up to this point. And this guy I was talking to was like, why haven't you seen his video on this or this or this or this? And I'm like, no, I don't know. He's like, well, you think you know what this guy has to say? And I was like, fuck, that's a good point, right? So I started studying way more and kind of getting more into the techniques. And me as a black belt was like, wow, I was doing this wrong for 10 years. Oh, wow, I was doing this wrong for 12 years. Cool. Oh, I didn't know how to do this properly. That's crazy. So if you humble yourself and you're like, I probably suck at this, if you really try to like truly absorb the information that like the best in the world give you, there's so much to learn. Like so much, and I've dabbled in all sorts of games. Like I used to be like a through and through Birimbolo guy when I was playing Gi. I used to try and dabble in like worm and squid guards and Della Worm. And then I shifted mostly to no gi, played a lot of leg locks. And, between all these games, like there are so many ways to play the game. You can never learn. You can never know everything. It's honestly crazy. Even when I talk to Gordon, I'm like, bro, you've told me you've got everything worked out. And he's like, nah, bro, I'm always learning. I'm like, fuck, don't tell me that, bro. Tell me you've mastered it. Tell me it's possible. I want to know. I want to believe, But, yeah. So there's always something to learn. You can always tinker with something, make it tidier, make it cleaner, make it better. Yeah. It's like the trick is to just humble yourself and be like, wow, I actually suck.
I read somewhere.
But again, but then again, like finding that progress, because it's daunting to feel like you suck, but remember that you suck compared to you in the future. This is the trick. It's always like, okay, but I'm way better than what I was when I fucking got my blue belt, for example. But it's just like that constant push to improve will make you still interested, but you also have to be humble enough to know that you want to make more progress. So it's a tricky balance, you know what I mean?
Is that why people plateau, do you think, that they get to that point where they think, I'm a blue belt now, I shouldn't be tapping to white belts, I shouldn't be making mistakes, whereas I read somewhere it was like, at white belt, you don't have a clue about anything. At blue belt, you begin to realize how little you know. By purple belt, you think, I probably should fix that. I should learn about that. By brown belt, and it goes up and up until you get to black belt where you think, I know nothing. I need to actually start mastering from now on, And is that the problem? We get the ego of, I need to defend my blue belt rather than, oh, this is just an example of, this is great, now learn from here. Make mistakes, have fun, be silly, but pick stuff up like you're saying.
Yeah, it's tricky. I feel like from my own experience at blue belt, like a lot of the coaching that I had when I was coming up in this rank wasn't very good. And so for me, I felt like I was getting a plateau, but for a different reason. I was like, wow, I'm actually not learning much new stuff. And I would just like grind at it and just kind of suck it up basically. And it was around this time that I started doing MMA as well. So it kind of shifted my focus a little bit, which kind of made it interesting because I was like trying to learn how to strike and trying to learn to wrestle way more and all these things. But I think for me, like if you open your eyes to the sources that are available to you, you can never run out of things to learn. So with that being said, I think like as long as you're diligent in the hunt for good information from plenty of sources, you'll only improve.
I love how you look at stuff. It's so refreshing and exciting, and it's kind of making me realize it's like I took some time off. I had a shoulder impingement, and I was kind of like, how do I get back? What? And I could feel myself just feeling like shy and scared and kind of like, but they're all so much better in the gym. And I'm now seeing it as I should be going, holy hell, I've got this amazing gym filled with killers and big guys who compete and all that. They're the best guys to train with and learn from. Because instead of thinking it as an ego thing, I should be going, oh, these are the guys to learn from because they're doing it for real. But what do you think about that? Should we be training at gyms where we're the worst in the room because we pick up? Do you deliberately put yourself in difficult situations?
It's a tricky question. So I think that generally for like competition preparation, there's two sides to this coin. And I'll share something actually kind of shitty, but good also. Like in my preparation for ADCC, when I qualified for the big show, like all my trials leading up to this, it's always like, oh, I get to train with the best guys in the world, and then I'm going to go and do ADCC trials. And there's nobody going to be like Nicholas or Luke Griffith when I go and compete. So then you have it as bad as you can possibly get it, and it's never going to be anywhere near as bad as facing Luke Griffith, for example.
No.
And then you go and do ADCC trials, and sure enough, nobody's like fighting Luke or whatever, right? So then when in my preparation for ADCC, no, not the trials, and now the big boys, now I go to training and I'm getting murked by these guys. I'm like, I'm getting ready to face this exact level of competition. That's terrifying. You know what I mean? So for me, it was a case of like, okay, well, like, how do I reconcile this feeling? And I literally was like, actually like having some pretty serious imposter syndrome type situations in my training camp. And I was actually like pretty devastated. I was like, fuck, I'm going to make an idiot of myself and blah, 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 blah. And I said to John, I was like literally tearing up. I said, John, should I just go and train like at RGA, like where John also teaches, but the level isn't the same as Roker at the time. And I was like, bro, I'm just getting like molested out here. And like, this is the level that I need to be operating at. And I'm just not going to, I can't stand a chance. And, it's like trashing my confidence and all this stuff. And John goes to me, he's like, confidence is a funny thing. It's like the confidence you gain from being in here with the best in the world, knowing it will not be any worse than it is now, is very, very strong. And it will hold you steadfast when you're in dire straits. He's like, the confidence you'll gain from going on and beating the shit through a bunch of, color belts that you already know you can beat the shit out of, it's not actually going to do anything true for your confidence. It's only superficial. It's only going to make you feel better, but it's not actually going to make you truly confident. And I was like, I hate when this guy's right. So I toughed it out and I stayed at Roker. And sure enough, obviously, like I had my match with Kynan, and that was obviously like I didn't win, which sucks. But like it was also not as bad, not as close, not even close to some of the roles that I had with like Nicholas or Luke or Big Dan or Gordon or like name any guy in that room, Giancarlo, like name a guy in the room, and it was terrible. You know what I mean? Like, so to go into that kind of match and be like, oh, I'm not getting mauled like I normally do was a very powerful feeling for me, you know? So to answer your question, circling back, right? To circle back, right? I think for competition preparation, this confidence that you gain from going against people who you deem as being really, really good puts you in a good framework to be relaxed because you know it can't get worse, you know? Or if it is, you know that, like, if it is worse than that, you know, okay, well, I mean, then I'm just outclassed. You know, you can't do anything about this, really, especially on the earlier ranks. Whereas, like, if you're training to enjoy jiu-jitsu, then it doesn't really matter that much. Like, it's still good to train with people who are better, but you can still certainly develop a lot of skills against lower ranked peoples. It's like, that's where I start my skill development. If I'm playing with something new, I'll try and do it to a bunch of blue, purple belts or whatever, and then I'll bring it up to black belts, you know? But it always kind of goes like this. So you just have to take the value out of each round as it presents itself to you, I think.
I love your sort of Bruce Lee approach to it because you absorb what's good and you reject all the other bits. So you take a bit of Danaher, a bit of Lackland, you take a bit of like your own kind of growth and you kind of say, well, this works for me. And then you teach it or you implement it into your own way of doing it. It's really impressive how open and honest you are about your own growth as a person as much as your jiu-jitsu career. I mean, I really struggle with imposter syndrome. You know, I sometimes feel like I'm rolling to defend my justification as a blue belt, whereas I feel like I probably should be starting again because I feel like I'm all over the place. And I think that's a big thing for guys. It's, you know, we defend where we are rather than thinking, learn from people, grow from people. We're all just there to learn the sport and enjoy ourselves. How did you deal with that imposter syndrome? Do you still have it? Do you find anything that works, like mental rituals you do? Is there things you try to avoid that makes it worse for you?
Dude, honestly, like, it's been a thing I struggle with for a long time. And I think, like, my turning point, I think, was probably my recent win in Aiga with Felipe. And so it was set up that we had the match with Felipe, and the next day I was going to fight the Universal Fighters team. And they're a tough team for sure. And at the time, their heavyweight was Ruslan Ajalayev, and he's the guy that beat Kynan, and you know he's been kind of chomping at the bit to try and get some big matches internationally. I mean, he's a nice enough guy. I think he's like very big and good at wrestling and pretty cagey on top. So it looks like an annoying match for sure. But I found in myself this ability to go, like, this guy just beat Kynan. And then I was like, but I'm not Kynan. And, like, to walk away and be like, I'm actually also really good. It's just in a different way. And, like, it occurred to me that, like, all these people that I put in this limelight and the spectacle, I guess, like, they're all just people as well. And, like, so-and-so might beat so-and-so. And then Bill might beat Steve, and Steve might beat Joey, and whatever, right? And that doesn't necessarily determine the pecking order. And so, me, as the grappler I am, you can say, oh, well, Kynan beat me at ADCC, so Ruslan should bash me. But I'm a very different grappler to Kynan. And to be able to be like, oh, I am actually elite at this game. And, you know, we're just a different grappler. That's why this matchup has happened. I can beat, like, I got myself in the state of mind that, like, it did not matter that Ruslan beat Kynan. I'm going to be able to beat Ruslan. This is kind of the mindset that I had going into this. Like, I was able to accomplish this. And then Ruslan didn't fight. They had another guy. His name has escaped me. But he was a top 8 finisher at ADCC and ended up having a good match and winning decisively. But the point of this is, like, kind of for me, it's always been this kind of tricky battle to navigate. And only after beating a world champion did I feel a sense of, like, yeah, I'm actually really good at this. Like, I'm actually elite. You know what I mean? But even after winning ADCC trials, like, you know, there's a lot of, I mean, it's no secret that, like, Australasia generally gets low seeds in the trials. because, for good reason, like we don't have that many champions. But I know from being in Australia and being in America that Australia's come the way up. Like it's doing really well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like the rest of the world is starting to see this, where it's not so clear cut that, okay, they won the Asian trials, so they're the 16th seed. It's not that clear anymore, I don't think. And so, after I went to ADCC, obviously had a decent performance against Kynan compared to some of the people that he fought. But taking this away from myself, I was able to be like, wow, I'm actually really, really fucking good. So the long and short of it is, the proof is in the pudding for me, to be honest. Like I had to work until I hit this insane level where I don't have this problem so much anymore. But it was always something that was kind of not plaguing me all the time, but there's like the subconsciously aware thing. So, but that ultimately that's like set on my own expectations. Like if my expectation is to be an international competitor, I have to be like, oh, I've got to be this guy who can do all this stuff. But for the average person who's a blue belt, like if you feel like, oh, I don't really deserve my belt, then it actually, it literally doesn't matter at the end of the day. It literally doesn't. And like a thing that I heard from somebody, actually one of my friends, he's also a coach. He said like, when I promote a person, that's not your belt, it's my belt as the coach. This belt doesn't belong to you. You wear it, but it's mine. It's my representation of what I think you're at and where I think you are in your journey. And that it's kind of nice because it puts the pressure back on the coach. Because if I do a shit job and I promote you at the wrong time, it's on me. Like I've had plenty of people come to my school, for example, with a rank they don't feel that they are entitled to. And I go, hey, that doesn't fucking matter actually, because that was your coach's observation. That's what they felt. I might have a different feeling. You might have a different feeling. That's not on you. It doesn't matter at the end of the day. Like, if your coach thinks that of you, then that's sick. That's a great thing. You know what I mean? The only time this goes awry, I think, is when coaches only grade based on like time served or whatever, or they have some kind of external pressure. But if they're grading you based on merit, that's just their merit system, and that's fine. That's literally what they think. There's no problem with this.
I love that. I love how you you take these kind of worries that we all have off the mats, because we all have the bravado, the ego and all that on the mats. But when we come back and it's, you worrying about yourself or thinking about a bad tap or thinking about how you got you're not learning or whatever, the fact that you're open about it and you've beaten a who's who, but you're also learning, you're growing, and you're open about imposter syndrome and stuff like that. It's so nice to hear that, because I think with guys, we kind of become the silent warriors. We do it all ourselves. But to have somebody like you who's saying, here's the side of jiu-jitsu, but here's also the mental side of it, and here's what I did to fix it. It's really, really rare in jiu-jitsu. But I think that's why we resonate with you and why you're such a good coach, because you know what people are being. I think Gordon sometimes forgets. He thinks he's so high up now that he forgets what it's like to be a newbie. Or maybe he comes across as that on social media. Maybe the same with like some of the other bigger names. They forget what it's like to be that guy who's just got his ass kicked by a girl who's like 8 stone lighter than us. We're kind of like, what? No, that shouldn't be happening. And I think we sometimes... Is that why you think people need to compete? Do we need to have that thing of finding where we are? Or can you just stay a hobbyist and really get the most from jiu-jitsu?
That's interesting. I don't think that you need to compete. I think it's good to be competitive. And I think that you learn a lot about yourself when you do compete. Some people I've seen perform terribly when you compete. And then they have the other side of the coin where they're like, oh no, now it's even worse because I competed terribly. But then it's like, I can objectively analyze and be like, well, you actually weren't much worse than this other guy, if at all. You just made a bad decision, which you typically don't make. Because at the end of the day, like, competing is not just about who's better. It's about who makes the right choice when. You know what I mean? Like, it's not actually a representation of how good you are. You know what I mean? It's only because the lights are on, there's pressure, there's all these things that make it possible for you to win, And so, yeah, at the end of the day, like, I think that sometimes maybe the elites of our sport can get a bit separated from this thing you're talking about. But at the same time, like that is jiu-jitsu. And if it wasn't that, it wouldn't be the magic that we all pursue. You know, I'm like, if jiu-jitsu couldn't do that crazy thing where the girl 8 stone lighter than you strangles you, for example, it wouldn't be the thing that is so inspiring, that makes you show up when you don't feel like it, that makes you fucking spend time away from your family to pursue this fun activity, basically. Like, it's that magic that draws everybody in, because at the end of the day, like, if you can accomplish that as somebody, just a regular person, and, you know, scale that up to, you know, somebody way bigger and stronger than you or more athletic, like, if you can create that situation in life ever where you're the smaller character or weaker character overcoming the grander, you know, the Goliath, so to speak, when you can beat your Goliath, you're like, wow, all this shit with jiu-jitsu, struggling, so worth it. Because that moment is so special, you know what I mean? Like, in the grand scheme of things. So, like, as much as it sucks, movie. It does. So as much as it sucks, it also enables us to perform amazing feats that are unbelievable. And that's the magic of jiu-jitsu at the end of the day. So if we didn't have that, then it wouldn't be that sexy.
It's maybe that I've trained with some people who maybe had bigger egos than I realized. You know, maybe I didn't at the time think, oh, that's actually just them having a defensive shield, you know, maybe putting up. When you've trained with the best, you competed against the world top dogs. What have you noticed about top performers? Like, how, you know, I mean, obviously they have better nuances of the game. They understand maybe the little battles and stuff, but what is it about their kind of their mindset or their approach or their, you know, like when you see them at the side warming up or you chatting to them after the matches and that, what is it about it that you go, oh, I need to put that into my style. Oh, I need to adopt that as a habit in my life, or I need to think like that. Is there anything that kind of jumps out you go, that's what I need to be like? Is that to be a better man, be a better performer, etc.?
It's tricky. I think there's an interesting book. It's called With Winning in Mind. And I'll talk about this in another podcast. But basically, like, the premise of the book, one of the things that's jumped out at me was that, like, there's 2 types of people in this game. People who think they're going to win and people who know they're going to win. And when you talk to one of these people who are the winners after the match, you're like, oh, thanks so much, man. And, you know, that was amazing. It's almost like they're like, yeah, of course. Like, of course. And not in an arrogant way, just like I mean, like, of course I won. I'm the best. You know what I mean? Like, it was never in doubt for them. And so I think, like, a thing that I've tried to do more, especially after reading this book, I didn't read it, obviously, I'm fucking lazy. I had an audiobook, let's be real. But after listening to this book, you know, and kind of seeing...
Audible for the win?
Dude, goated. Shout out to 2025, bro. The future is now. I have to read. I said that for my phone, bro, when I'm doom scrolling Instagram. No, but...
I have to move my eyes? No.
Absolutely not. You want me to do this? Fuck out of here. I lost my train of thought. But after seeing, listening to this book and seeing the best in the game do their thing, that was one of the things that I'm like, oh, I have to try to find my way to believe that I will win. Like, and it's tricky because at the same time, you also have to reconcile that sometimes you won't. But in the pursuit of this feeling where you truly believe that you will win, you enable it to be possible, I think. And there are people who think they're going to win against other people who think they're going to win. And, you know, that kind of works itself out in the wash. It kind of just is what will be. But when you kind of come at it with this, like, certainty, the best, they either hide it really well or they certainly feel as though they truly believe they're taking this, no questions. Yeah. So either they're presenting this way and it works for them, or they're showing me that in my interaction with them, and maybe they're also shitting themselves and like, oh, thank God I got through that. You know, maybe that's what's going on inside, but you can never know. So ultimately, I don't think there's like a right or wrong way. I've kind of played with both, where you kind of acknowledge the moment and you're like, wow, I could get strangled in front of all my friends. But if you acknowledge this moment and just kind of like, okay, well, let me just like take that feeling and let it go and just be present and compete, this is also fine in my opinion. But it comes back to, I guess, how you want to try to play the game.
I think that's the beauty of it, isn't it? Is like when we see people winning these top awards, we think, oh, I can never be like that. But when it's nice to hear that kind of side of, yeah, we're also shitting ourselves thinking, oh my God, what happens if this happens? Oh, wait, what? And you can feel that mental kind of monkey jumping up and down, kind of going, look at me, you're terrible, you're this, you're that we all have at lower levels. It's nice to see that at black belt, but it's more you fall back to the level of your training. You know, you fall back to the thousands of roles that you've had rather than, you know, or it's who has a better day. How do you approach that? I mean, you've won some high awards. You've beaten the best of the best. At what point do you have a way of approaching this, or do you just literally go, I'm just going to have fun and see what happens? Do you have a mentality of your rolling? Do you change your training before competitions? Does anything change as you go towards ADCC apart or any other competition that you're going to?
Yeah, so in general, I would say that in training, I play a lot and I fuck around a lot to try to find interesting scrambles. I want to try to explore ideas, and that means like not having my foot on the gas all the time, for example. And like even the way that I play the game changes a bit. You know, I'm much more reactive, and I'll try and like take what people give me and try and like just finesse the shit out of some timing. You know what I mean? Whereas when I prepare for competition, I'm a bit more proactive because I have a lot of belief in the value of winning the initiative. And so I make this a large part of my focus for my preparation for competitions. And then so that's the practical side of what I do in the training room that's different. And then for the mental side, I guess, like I mostly just focus on my way to win. And like I will literally say this to myself, like things like, you know, if I believe that I'm the stronger guy, I'll emphasize that I'm stronger, more precise, and I will win. I would say this, like in a match where I'm a bigger guy, I'm going to think this to myself. In a match where I'm fighting a gorilla, I'm going to think, I'm too fast, I'm too smart, I'm too technical, I'm going to win. Like these types of things. I'll focus on my way to win. And then anytime I get too excited, I do this thing that Nicholas told me about, actually, Nicholas Marigali, genius advice. He's like, nobody actually cares. Don't forget that. Nobody cares. It's kind of funny to say, right? But if you remember that we do this fringe sport and like your friends and family care about you, they don't necessarily care that much. They don't really care if you win or lose. They care that you're okay because they love you. And if they actually care about the result, in spite of you being sad or depressed after you lose a match, well, then they're probably not actually your friend. That's the honest truth of it. And then they don't really care about you. So then if they don't really care about you, does that even really matter? If they think that, you know? And whenever I start to get too excited and I feel the adrenaline pumping too much, I'll remind myself, don't forget, nobody cares. I'm like, oh yeah. And then you just relax and you focus on your way to win. And this has helped me a lot. It's been very, very good.
Oh God, I wish I'd heard that before when I was training, because I'm trying to get back to it now. I'm just fixing a shoulder impingement. I'm desperate to get back, and that's why I'm so glad I found your stuff. But to hear that will change me completely, because I was going in thinking everybody was judging my rolls. Everybody was judging if I tapped or if I did this or that, where you realize nobody cares. Like you said, people just go because they enjoy the sport and they see their pals and they come away. The only matter to who tapped is to the person who tapped. No one, the coach isn't going, well, that's it. I'm taking their blue belt away. I'm going to shoot them out the gym. You know, they're kind of going, okay, we'll work on this. We'll improve that. We'll teach you, or where do you think you struggle? Is that where you say, trust the training, live in the moment? That kind of thing of stop focusing on what's happening outside and just enjoy and just be present in the moment?
Yeah, but I mean, like at the same time, you know, I think like training is very different to competition. Like training has even less pressures. Like I've tapped to plenty of people who on paper I shouldn't tap to. But at the same time, like if I'm training because I'm trying to work on, you know, my leg lock defense and I'm letting people capture my legs and put me in all kinds of crazy precarious positions. If I tap, I'm like, well, okay, that's chalk that up. Remember that. Trying to get put that same position next time. But I don't want to have that realization happen when I'm on the stage at ADCC. I don't want to be like, oh, I found that out. No, I want to do that beforehand. You know what I mean?
No.
So, yeah, learning to remind yourself what it is that you're trying to play for is way more important, you know? Like all the mental components of it, like when you really break it down to its bare bones components, even your coach, like if in your situation, for example, you're like, oh, fuck, coach saw me tap to this guy, you know, he's going to go, oh, that sucks, but he's back in the game. Like there's plenty of ways to rationalize why somebody would lose. And sometimes I'll look at one of my students who gets done by something or other, and I'm like, what are you doing, bro? I'm like, oh, I'm trying to do this. And I'm like, okay, carry on. Because if I can see you're trying to do something productive for your growth, then who cares? Literally, who cares? But if somebody's like getting submitted over and over again in like the same way, I might be like, hey man, like, what are we doing? Why are we keep getting this? Why are we getting caught here? You know? And, you know, if they're trying to do a particular thing, or they're like, oh man, every time I go to frame on somebody, my shoulder fucking plays up. So I'm trying to solve this problem without that. Okay, that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like if you're objective about what's going on in the situation, it doesn't make any sense to be like it practically makes no sense to be like, oh, fuck, he's letting me down. Like he's just not. It's not like the way that it goes. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think like just generally being able to remove the pressure off yourself and focus on just getting better at the end of the day.
I love how you've just cut out probably about 9,000 people's ego just now going, stop worrying about it, just enjoy it, you know. And it's a lot of people are probably going, because they've realized like you've broken that stigma, that kind of, we don't have to be these warriors all the time. We can play about and learn stuff and enjoy it. And it takes the stress and the importance of it off. And to hear a coach say that, and somebody who's at that level explain it, I wish I'd heard that when I was younger, because it probably would have stopped me being a bitch for so long in a lot of sessions. How is your training set up? Are you kind of, like you're saying, do you just literally go, I'm struggling with this, let's play a bit of this? Do you, because, you know, you have a lot of technical skills, you have technical performances, and you have a lot of like prowess in your skill, but are you intuitive? Are you a structured plan that you fall back on the highest level of your training when things do go wrong? How do you approach your training?
So, I mean, for me, sometimes I get inspired by an idea and I'll like go into this area that I'm like, oh, I need to play this more. And then other times I have the tendency to drift in the wind a little bit. When I'm like, oh, I'll watch this, or I'll watch this, or I'll watch this. And then I end up like picking up little pieces of this and that, but not like a structured game. And this is part of what's so good for me, is because when I'm in Australia, I teach for like 20 to 25 hours a week, generally. And then I train with Lachlan twice a week, like in his sessions. And then I do 2 sessions a week where I kind of run a pro session at my academy, where I do oftentimes work on what I think that I need to work on. And then I do a couple of position sparring classes per week at my academy. So when I'm at home, it's very much at the whim of like what I feel like doing kind of thing. So sometimes I have to be disciplined with myself and be like, no, actually you need to work on blah, 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 and just be objective. But a lot of the time I'll be like, I'm playing with this idea or this idea and kind of just noodle with stuff. But in terms of like preparation, that's not that good. So generally what's so good about my time with John is that I get to not have to fucking worry about what it is that I need to do and just trust that John's got a plan, basically. And he makes a huge impact on my development. It's crazy. Because like, apart from John being like probably arguably the best coach of all time, I also get to just do jiu-jitsu and not worry about coaching or any of these other things, just worry about my own development. And I get to do it twice a day, every day, all the time. It's the best. So that's in a nutshell, like what sets it, like how I set my training up is that like I kind of noodle and play. And then when I get ready for something serious, I'm like, hey, John, take the wheel, because I don't want to have to do all that, because I'll get distracted by a shiny, cool thing, But if somebody's like, hey, do this, I'll do way better.
I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? Is like, we can't do it all ourselves. We have to have a partner to train against. So we also need a coach, and it's delegate the responsibility to them and let them do their strengths, and then just teach you, and then you use your strengths to then develop your game. And yeah, it's a great way of doing it. I mean, I think that's the thing, is we all try to think we know more than we do, whereas we should be saying, you've spotted a mistake. Don't take it personally. Go, okay, I need to work on that, and incorporate in our game. It's not a criticism from a coach. It's here's how you can move. I'm gonna hate myself for saying this. Here's how you can level up. But you travel a lot. You go from Australia to around the world. You coach. You go off to America. You do all these amazing things. You said in another interview where you don't really have a work-life balance. You're always just on the go. You're creating content around your coaching, training. You travel to train with Dan O'Hara, etc. How do you make your hotel rooms, rooms that you're staying at, your base for competitions, for training sessions? And what do you do in the flight times? How do you stay Daniel and not lose your mind with all the travel and away from home and that?
Yeah, the away from home part's tricky. I'm very blessed to have an amazing friend in Big Dan. So Big Dan and I got really close a few trips ago, and I'm blessed to be able to stay with Dan. So the first time first 2 times I went to Texas, I kind of had an Airbnb to myself, and it was pretty rough. I'd call home every day, but it's still pretty tough to go from a big house, sort of situation in Australia to just kind of being by myself and just doom scrolling between training sessions. If everybody's asleep in Australia, for example, you're like, oh fuck, this is kind of hard. But no, overall, for me, I think the big thing is just kind of get into my routine as fast as I can. So be on my food, be on my timing of my sleep, and yeah, basically that's how I try and get settled in as quickly as I can. Is just find my rhythm that I'm going to stick to, and then. In terms of when I'm traveling, bro, honestly, it's really tough. I pretty much just, I don't know. I play a lot of chess, to be honest. It's how I try and get through it. Because it's an interesting intellectual pursuit that I don't actually have to have any pressure at all to be good at, other than just what I enjoy, basically. So I do this between the time, and I mostly just focus on getting my sleep right so that when I land, I have the least amount of time where I'm a fucking zombie. You know what I mean? Because if you mess up your sleep on a plane, it can kind of really set you back for a few days. So I've kind of gotten a bit better at this, but it's still always a challenge.
I like how you pick a hobby that is jiu-jitsu's human chess, folding people while they're wearing their clothes kind of thing. And now you're playing chess exactly, where you have to think 3 steps ahead and logically and system. And so can you go into a little bit about your food and your sleep? What kind of stuff are you eating? What kind of stuff are you... how have you figured out, maybe heavy curtains to block out the light? Do you wear eye masks? Is there things that you've learned as a top-tier competitor that, a little fat newbie like myself could pick up and go, eat this, take this supplement, do this, that would actually benefit us at our scabby level?
For sure, yeah. I mean, eye mask is a godsend, honestly. If you get a good eye mask, that is a very, very useful tool, especially to acclimate to time differences, for flights. Light in your eyes when you're trying to sleep is a motherfucker to deal with. So if you get that squared away, that does really good. And then food-wise, I think, honestly, I just try and get as many carbs as I can, to be honest. High carb, high protein, low fat. That's pretty much how I run. Because at the end of the day, carbs are a great source of fuel for all this shit that we do. And so if you get a lot of them, probably your body will perform really good. You know what I mean? And so I generally try and run something in the neighborhood of I think it's 240 protein, 80 fat, and then depending on how much I have to cut or not cut, around 400, 440 of carbs. And then that's what I do, basically, yeah. So it's kind of run as a macro approach. But I do
And
a lot of
still struggle?
extra lean. I do a lot of extra lean beef mince, potatoes, rice, this sort of stuff, and then like energy drinks. I just take a bunch of them. Balance.
I like that. I like how you're still kind of like enjoying life. You know, you're not kind of just going, I sit here with my broccoli and my rice and I don't speak to anybody and I meditate and I levitate off the floor and all this kind of shit. You're just like, I'm me.
Yeah, I'll go bloody bonkers if I have to do that. Yeah, no, I mean, like, I think like there's a time and a place for chicken and rice, for example, and just like broccoli and shit like this. But it's normally when you're doing an aggressive cut, which I don't really have to do. Like, my hard cut that I do is to 99 kilos for ADCC, and it's honestly not very hard. I've done very hard cuts to make 84 kilos when I was fighting in MMA, and that was hard, you know. But yeah, like 6-7 kilos of water, it's literally like not a big deal. So to me, it's all about like getting my body to be like suited for high performance and fueling as much as I can, while also trying to not lose all the muscle that I grow outside of camp. Like when I go to Texas, I literally have to spend so much time eating, actually, because I just train so much, to be honest.
How do you juggle all this? You know, I mean, you're training with some of the best in the world. You're flying over to train with Gordon and, you know, John and etc. Then you're coming back, you know, you're dealing with the family. Then you're having to deal with muppets like me phoning you, asking for interviews. And then you're trying to do content creation as well. How do you fit this all in? Because you said in another interview about how you struggle with that work-life balance. When do you become Daniel that's the Daniel for yourself? Or is this the thing that you enjoy about life, that you have, you know, how do you find that transition from family man to coach to content creator to competitor?
I feel like I'm always the same. It's tricky to balance everything in terms of like putting a priority on everything, but I kind of just get up at 5:40, 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I just go all day, and then I do it again, basically. Like that's like
I love how you don't overcomplicate it.
No, I mean, like, you've got a bunch of things you've got to do, and if you just decide that you have to do them, then you just will. It's like, it's hard, yeah, hard as shit. You just gotta, like, it's one of those things, like, momentum will build regardless of what it is. So if you force yourself into a routine that you think is too hard, in 3 weeks' time, it will feel not that bad. In 3 months' time, it will feel like the norm. You know, like now my sleep in is like 7:30, and I'm like, woo, look at all this extra sleep I got. You know, like, whereas me, I don't know, a few years ago, like, it was funny. I remember, how long ago did we start morning classes? We started doing morning classes at my gym, and so I have to get up at like 5:40. You know, get up, get dressed, have a coffee, go to the gym. You know, open up and all these things. So I got into this routine of getting up at 5:40, something like this. From used to be, I would get up when I would need to take like the kids to school or whatever. So it'd be like 7:20. So that's a pretty big difference. And so I just got into this habit, and all of a sudden I gained an extra 2 hours a day, basically. You know, it sounds ridiculous, but you can just do it. It's just terrible. But I mean, if you've got all the things you need to do laid out for you, you know, there's a lot of hours in the day. I think like it's very easy to overlook the fact that we can like get stuck doom scrolling or just doing nothing, basically. And yeah, I think if you really utilize all your hours efficiently, then you can do a ton. Like, I'm not always perfect, but I try to be. And yeah, you just put all that together, and then there you go.
I like that, because there's a world of difference between being busy and effective, isn't there? You know, we all think we're really busy, but when you actually see what a lot of people do, you kind of go, so do we count the 4 hours on Netflix? Do we count the 2 hours scrolling on your phone while on a shit? Do we do, you know?
Correct, yeah. Like, people go to me, they're like, oh, so what kind of, like, you watch any shows or you play any games lately? And I'm like, no, dude. No, I do not have time for that at all. You know what I mean? And like for example, I've told the missus eventually GTA 6 will come out, and probably 6 months, probably 6 weeks of my life, it's going to be a write-off. I'll be honest with you. When I get GTA 6, that finally drops sometime in the next 15 decades, I'll probably write my life off for a good 6 weeks. And then I'll have a bunch of guilt, and then I'll work like a madman for the next 12 weeks and make up for it. But, you know what I mean? Like, but for me to have like recreational game time or watch Netflix or this sort of thing, like I just get too addicted because I'll be like, oh, but I'll get invested in this process that makes me better. And then it will envelop into absorbing my whole life. Like even silly shit. Like what was the game? I played like Last War on my phone. Like one of these, like it's basically like one of those, not even a war simulator. Like it's just a merge game. You do a bunch of merging and you collect coins and then you buy upgrades. It's literally the dumbest brain rot shit ever, basically. And I got to such a good level, and it dawned on me one day. I was like, wow, I'm spending like 4.5 hours a day playing this game, like in between when I could be doing other shit. That is an absolute waste of my fucking life. And I deleted it right then and there. I was like, wow, I got entranced in this fucking game, you know? But if you really are objective about like things that are going to serve you, you'll quickly realize, wow, that's actually dumb as shit. Like even chess, it gets out of control sometimes. I play too many games. But I'm at least like, this is at least a mentally stimulating pursuit. You know, it's like there's some value outside of just playing the game that I derive from this. So then it's kind of okay. But yeah, if you're objective about what you spend your time on, then like I think you'll find you have plenty of time to do all the things.
There was a guy we worked with, and it was height of summer, and they said, what are you going to do tonight? And he said, I've got a really busy day. I've got to watch EastEnders at 7, Coronation Street at 7:30. You know, like he had like this whole TV schedule, and we're all kind of looking at him going, what the hell's going on? Like, you know, that he just had nothing else except for and when people say that to him the whole time, oh yeah, I had a busy night last night. We watched this, we did that. We sat and drank for 3 hours while watching a TV show, and I'm like, how is that fun? I'd rather be content creating. I'd rather be doing this and that. How did becoming a father change you? You know, because you've gone from being this kind of guy who needed jiu-jitsu to now being this loved guy on the social media. You have cracking content. You have a lot of fans. You know, you're winning. You're competing against some of the top people. You're winning some amazing tournaments, etc. Has becoming a father, marriage, becoming this well-known, well-loved figure, has it helped you understand just how value you are as a person? Or do you still struggle? Or has it just helped you level up?
It's tricky. I think like, especially like in business, like being able to be a provider has been really cool for me. I feel like for a long time, like, because my wife's a bit older than me, so like there was a like difference in like career development that's existed, and so then like in being a provider, you kind of like, well, my wife's very well established in her business and all these things, so there's that level of like, oh fuck, how am I gonna meet this and like match her and then exceed her as a man, you know? Yeah. So for a long time, it was very difficult to do because she was well established and the gym was in its early days. But I have my sights set on some goals in the future, which I think are going to be very powerful for like my own self esteem, I guess, in being somebody that my family can count on for like not just being a tough guy who can look after, I could bash anybody else's dad. You know what I mean? Like instead of just being this guy, it's like being somebody that can like provide for the family more. And yeah, it's very valuable. Like to be able to be a good influence on my kids, on my stepkids, but I mean they're my kids. To be a good influence on these people and watch them grow into like awesome little humans. It's pretty special.
I love how the smile comes in when it's the things like that. You know, it's because, you know, you can talk about jiu-jitsu for hours, but you light up when you talk about that aspect or the growth in it. And I think sometimes it comes to show like things like this where you stop and go, geez, I have actually come really far. I've done all these amazing things. What is the evolution going to be for the man-child? Do you think we'll ever have the the next level of Daniel? Like, or will you always be the man-child that makes you you?
I mean, I think the man-child thing is funny. Like when I was a kid, like when I was like 13, I was like, I looked like I was 20. You know what I mean? I had a big ass beard. I was a big kid. So like before, I was a kid that looked like a man, and now I look like a man, but my job is to wrestle people on the ground. You know what I mean? Like I'm a big kid, so I kind of hold
Wearing
that
pajamas.
kind of mentality. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Right. Little spandex outfit, it's cute as. Right. But for me, it's all about like being true to who I am, I guess, and I guess just pursuing that. And so the evolution for the man-child, I mean, like in terms of the branding, I've got a few things in the pipeline that I'm trying to work on at the moment. And by that, I mean, I'm paying somebody else to work on it. But it's coming. Something cool shit is coming, especially to do with like online coaching and things like this, which is really exciting. I think like it's going to open some really cool doors for some people that it wouldn't otherwise be able to reach. But then in terms of my competitive success, like the next plan is to get everything ready to do ADCC trials, hopefully get back out there on the big show and punch my ticket back to ADCC and hopefully, I mean, get on some more international shows. It's tough coming from Australia, but I'd love to get on like a Who's Number One or something similar to this. It would be really sick. But we'll see what the future holds, man. I'm always, quietly optimistic. I feel like as I just put in more and more work into all these different avenues in my life, I feel like more and more good shit keeps happening. So I just kind of stay positive and pursue what life throws at me, basically.
I love it. I mean, it literally feels like 10 minutes in it. Like, I know I'm way over the time I said it was going to be, but I cannot thank you enough. I mean, it's been an absolute joy I knew you were going to be good, but I mean, I was trying to avoid taking notes. There's questions I'm sitting there going, oh, that's amazing. And to avoid going down a rabbit hole of like my own stuff, because I think that's what we forget sometimes is you're people too. You have your own responsibilities. You have your focus as well. And to see a lot of me in you, the struggles I'm having now, to see you being open and honest about them certainly helps me understand jiu-jitsu, about growing as a person as well. And your content's hilarious, and your content's amazing, and I learn from it. So I cannot thank you enough for it. But what would until I get you to come back on, what would you want people to take from this as a summary of this? How can we use the man-child approach to enjoy jiu-jitsu, to live in the moment, to trust the training, to not just something to grind through, but something that gives us joy, resilience, community, and fun in our lives?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately the path of jiu-jitsu is what you make of it. If you pursue greatness, you can hold yourself to this kind of account, and there's a world of information to be absorbed from, and so many great minds in the sport, so many cool ways that you can do jiu-jitsu to express yourself and chase the heights that you want to chase. If you're doing it recreationally, just remember that it's all about enjoying the moment. So don't get too caught up on the mentality, the mental aspects of the training, the stress that can come from like the challenges of getting good in jiu-jitsu. Try to focus on like small wins and remember how far you've come in the period of time, since you started, for example, or maybe even in the last 6 months. And don't try to compare yourself to your training partners and how they're progressing, because they're on a different journey. Try to compare yourself to your former self, because that will always give you the best reflection of the path you've taken. And I guess that's probably the main big takeaways in terms of jiu-jitsu for sure.
Yeah, it's not your training partner, it's who you see in the mirror. If you're better than them the day before. Do you still struggle with that when you look in the mirror now?
Sometimes. It's challenging to have the daily successes, because ultimately it's challenging when you've kind of got this base knowledge. And, not that I don't know everything, but I know a lot about most stuff. And so then it's like, okay, what things do I pick on to make me better tomorrow? That's a difficult question to always have a clear answer from, unless you watch your own roles religiously. And but then even then, sometimes in those roles, I'm fucking around. So it's challenging, you know what I mean? Whereas if I was rolling for real and trying to win every round, then watching those rolls back, you'd be like, okay, I need to do this, this, and this, and this. But because I'm playing so much, it's a tricky thing to navigate. But I just try to be honest with myself, and be like, oh, what do I need to do? And where do I need to look to try and find more information? Sometimes that's just like getting in a position 50 times and seeing if I can get it to work and trying to understand why it's working or not working. But yeah, other times that's just been like, oh, I need to work on this. And then watching John's instructional or Gordon's instructional and something like this, right? And kind of going from there.
That's a point. How do we watch instructionals and take stuff from it? Because a lot of people just sit and watch it. But how do you actually take a bit of this and say, oh, that's good, I'm going to incorporate that? Or, if we're completely new to this, how do we figure out that that's a good bit for an instructional, or that's BS, or that's something that can work for us? Have you figured out a way that students can do that?
My general recommendation is to watch something that pertains to a problem that you're having. So most beginners suck at pin escapes. So normally you watch this, and normally you'll already have some base understanding of the position. And sometimes you'll watch something and they'll say it to you, and you'll be like, that makes total sense. I understand that 100%. Other times you'll watch something and you're like, oh, that's a cool thing I didn't even think about. That thing, screen record that, and then keep watching. And then if you hit your mental wall where you're like, I'm kind of bored, I'm not really paying attention anymore, stop, that's you're done. So it might be 5 minutes, it might be 20, it might be an hour, it might be 2. Just kind of keep doing this process until you find a bunch of chunks, take those chunks to training. When you have an open mat next, rewatch them, have a try of them, see how they feel with your body, and then probably you'll be good to go and you'll be making progress by the time before you know it.
No. And how can we follow along this journey, the journey of the man-child? How can we see this amazing stuff? Because you're going from strength to strength, mate, and you're doing these amazing things, and you're growing as a person. And I can't wait to see these next developments of your brand. But for people who want to follow, who want to maybe come and train with you, who want to come and train at your gym, do you take walk-ins? Have you got courses coming up that people can purchase? The floor is open to you if there's anything that coming up that you would like to promote as well.
Amazing. Yeah, sure. So you can come to visit us at my gym. My gym is Precision MMA. We're out in Croydon in Melbourne's eastern suburbs. You can follow me at Daniel_the_manchild on Instagram. You've got my gym's YouTube channel, Precision_MMA_official. I'm also on TikTok, but I don't even know my name. I just post shit there. I'm not that invested in TikTok, obviously, as you can tell. I train with Lockie typically Tuesdays, Thursdays in St Kilda at Absolute MMA, and then I go and do trips to train with John and Gordon. So if you're in America or anything like this, you're out that way, you might run into me over there. In terms of my courses, there's a couple of things. I've got a couple of courses on leg lock defense on Method Online, and big shout out to my sponsors, Leone, that's my boys right there. I love these guys. They look after me crazy. And the Performance Hub, who are my strength and conditioning crew, who make sure I don't get too fat. And shout out to my amazing wife and my beautiful kids. And yeah, that's my crew. That's the people who look after me.
Well, that's it for another week. And thank you for listening. It's now time to take what you've learned and use it to develop and enhance your life with the key points mentioned. Listen, try it, embrace it, use it, and crush it. Now's your time to hit that next level in your life. If you liked this episode, then please leave a comment on the show notes or a review of the show on your podcast platform. Everything helps evolve the show. Until next week, keep seeking the next level in your life.